Hey guys, it is almost Thanksgiving. So this week for your social studies, we're just gonna read a book. It's one of my favorite Thanksgiving books. It's Pete the Cat, The First Thanksgiving. Who likes Pete the Cat? I love Pete the Cat. I think he's hilarious. Pete was nervous about being a pilgrim in his class's Thanksgiving play, The First Thanksgiving. Just do your best, his best friend Callie said. Pete said he would try. He was ready. His mom had even made him a pilgrim hat, which was really cool. Oh look, there's a little flap to lift up. There's his pilgrim hat. Pete took his place at the front of the giant ship that his class had made out of cardboard. Pete was a pilgrim on the Mayflower. In 1620, a group of pilgrims decided to leave England for the New World to build a new life. It was a long, long trip on a big, big ship, all the pilgrims sang. The sea was rough and very dangerous. Many pilgrims got very, very sick. So they all lived in England, and they decided that they wanted to leave England because in England they weren't allowed to do what they wanted to do and go to the church they wanted to go to and things like that. So they decided to leave England to go to a new place where they could make their own decisions. So they got on a big ship called the Mayflower, but it wasn't an easy trip. It was a really rough trip. The dream of a new start and a new world made the hard trip all worth it. For more than 2 months, the pilgrims sailed. So they left in September. They wondered if they would ever get there. Look how long it took. Look at all those days that are marked off. And they were on a boat that whole time. And it wasn't like this big boat with lots of rooms like a cruise ship. They were all packed in pretty close. There wasn't a lot of room to move. It was kind of dirty and nasty. And they were stuck on there for all these days. After 65 days on the ship, the New World finally came into view. "Land ho!" Pete cried. All the pilgrims did a happy dance. They were so excited to finally see land so they could get off that boat. The pilgrims arrived in the New World at Plymouth Rock in what is now Massachusetts. Massachusetts is a state. Like we live in Kentucky, Massachusetts is another state inside of our country. Everyone had many chores to do, like growing food, finding water, look at that, and building shelters. So when they got to this new land, there was nothing there yet except like trees. So there wasn't a Walmart where they could go get stuff or anything like that. They were going to have to create everything themselves and grow all of their own food. That's kind of scary, isn't it? They really, really wanted this freedom, but it was going to take a lot of work to be able to have the freedom that they wanted. The first winter in the New World was long and hard. In the spring, the pilgrims had to decide whether to give up and go back to England or keep trying. So it was a very rough winter. It was very cold. They didn't have enough food. They didn't have enough houses and shelter. So it was kind of hard for them to decide, like, is this really worth it or should we go all the way back? But if we go all the way back, then we're not going to have the freedom to do what we want anymore. So it was a really tricky choice to make. The pilgrims had heard about the Native Americans, and many worried that they would not be friendly. Pete had never met a cat he didn't like, so he thought they would be kind. Look at that. Pete was right. He made a new friend in Squanto. Squanto and the other Native Americans showed the pilgrims how to grow crops like corn, beans, and squash. So they met the Native Americans who already lived there. And the Native Americans were nice and taught them how to grow their own food. By summer, the pilgrims had learned how to farm the new land. Look at all that stuff they were able to grow. They're finally going to have food. By fall harvest, the pilgrims had plenty of food. To thank Squanto and the other Native Americans, the pilgrims invited them to share the harvest. This celebration became known as the First Thanksgiving. So to say thank you to the Native Americans, they had this big meal. And that's what we still do for Thanksgiving. We have a big meal. Pete was relieved when the play was over. He had remembered all his lines. Wow, I never thought about how hard it was back then, said Pete. You did great, Callie said. Later, at Thanksgiving dinner with his family, Pete said, let's all go around the table and say something we are thankful for. I'm thankful for my family, said Pete's mom. I'm thankful for my skateboard, said Bob. I'm thankful for the brave pilgrims that started this new free world, said Pete. What are you thankful for? So I hope on Thanksgiving you spend a little bit of time thinking about the things that you're thankful for, because we are super, super blessed and we have a lot to be thankful for. So I hope you spend a little time thinking about that, and I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I can't wait to see you again. Bye, guys.